Welcome to this simulcast of the situation update for Wednesday, December 29th, 2021. I show you their knives, I show you their Magna Cut alloy. It's a lifetime survival knife, an outdoors knife, and I show you the Windstorm sword that they made for me. It's incredible. Now, and by the way, they're not sponsoring today's podcast. I'm just mentioning that video. They are a sponsor of other podcasts. Check out that video if you want to know what a quality knife actually looks like, made in the USA. Life-saving tool. Incredible. The actual sponsor for today is a satellite phone store that you know about, sat123.com. Especially if you're in a city or a suburb, I would get a satellite phone because I think we're going to deal with cell tower outages and power grid down scenarios in 2022. To have backup comms, you need a CB radio, long range radio. You need a two-way radio. And by the way, it would be good to have a ham operator's license. You should, if you have time, like add that to your list of 1,000 things to do for preparedness. Right? Me too. I don't have a ham license either, but it's on my list. Right? But a cell phone, you don't need a license. And you can call even if the cell towers are down. I'm sorry, a sat phone, excuse me. So get a satellite phone, sat123.com. That's the sponsor of today. Now, in addition to that, I'm going to mention a skill that would be good for you to practice, and it's called intuitive shooting. Now, this is a skill that was taught to me by a former Navy SEAL. And this particular instructor, really cool guy. And he had this timing device, this like gun training timer, which I have since purchased myself. And it's a blue outer shell, and it attaches to your waist. And the timer goes beep, and that's when you're supposed to draw and shoot. And it times the duration to not only your first shot, and it can tell you that, oh, it took 2 seconds for your first shot. It can also tell you the times of your second shot, third shot, fourth shot, and so on. Or it can tell you how many shots per second you're firing if you're firing off an AR-15. And we did a lot of rapid fire drills, we could do 4 or 5 rounds per second, which empties a full mag, in about 5 or 6 seconds. With a regular trigger, by the way, just a regular semi-auto trigger, no, nothing special, just practice. Well, there's a pistol skill called intuitive shooting. And you know how normally when you draw your pistol and you bring it up in, you acquire a sight picture, you line up the front sight with the rear sight with your target, so you've got these 3 points all aligned, and you've got one eye that's doing this, your dominant eye, usually the right eye for most right-handed shooters, and you're lining all these things up, and then you're squeezing the trigger without moving these 3 points, and then the shot goes where it's supposed to go. This process. All right, what if you don't have time for all that? What if you need to shoot something in less than 1 second? Like beep, bam. Can you do that? Well, the answer is yes, with some practice, with some training. It's called intuitive shooting. They won't let you do this at a gun range. So you got to do this at your own private gun range, or maybe the pistol range of a friend of yours. And it's good to use paper targets because you have to be pretty close to the target. And it involves the skill, once you hear the beep, beep, you draw and you don't get a sight picture. You draw and you present that gun out there and you pull the trigger as quickly as you can to get that first shot off as quickly as possible, but also on target. Somewhere in the target, somewhere on the paper is the goal. And you could do this from 10 feet away or something. Safely. Be safe, obviously. I'm not your gun instructor, so, be safe, get a qualified instructor to help you with this drill. Don't shoot your toes off, things like that, Make sure you have good gun skills and proper trigger control. Keep your finger off the trigger until you've acquired the target, all that kind of stuff. But intuitive shooting is where, like, if I said to you, hey, point to that tree, and you just whip your finger out there and you pointed to that tree. Like, you don't need to line up your finger and a bunch of sights and the tree. You don't need to make a 3-point thing. You can intuitively point at things. You've done it since you were a little baby. You're pointing at things like in the grocery store, Lucky Charms, mommy, you're pointing at the Lucky Charms. Remember that? What if you had a gun in your hand as you're pointing and you just intuitively shoot that target? How quickly could you do it? And the answer from most people with a little bit of training is under 1 second. Some people can do it in like 0.6 seconds after hearing the beep. It's like beep, bam. Yeah, that's called intuitive shooting. It's a good skill to have. Again, make sure you have professional instruction so you can practice it safely. But I want you to understand that when the world crashes around us, which is coming, the bad guys aren't going to be waiting for you to have a really nice sight picture. They're not going to be polite like your firearms instructor was. They're going to be shooting to kill you and steal your stuff, maybe your food, maybe, I don't know, your gold bars or whatever. You're going to have to be able to defend yourself. And intuitive shooting is a critical skill to get that done. So I would imagine you could go onto YouTube, maybe even Brighteon. You could search for intuitive shooting. There are probably other names for it. Like point shooting, I think, is another name for it. And you can find some videos and you can see what I'm talking about. But this is something that I practice and that I encourage other people to practice. And it's really an advanced, typically a more advanced level skill. So after you have many, 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 many hours of getting sight pictures and shooting the slow way, can you shoot fast without even aiming? And I also do a drill where I look at the target and I close my eyes and then I draw and shoot. And then I open my eyes and say, oh, where did I hit the target? You can shoot blind. Is that a good skill to have? You bet it is. Because you might be visually impaired. You might be dodging bullets yourself. There might be dirt, dust, or shrapnel in your eyes. Who knows? Do you know where you're shooting without seeing it? It's like full Jedi, Luke Skywalker with the welder's helmet and all that. Yeah, you can shoot blind. I'm not recommending that you just walk around doing this, obviously. Keep it safe, keep it legal. This is an advanced skill. But if you have enough experience, can you draw and hit a target 10 feet away without opening your eyes? Absolutely. Is that a good skill to have? You bet it is. Now, what's interesting about this skill, by the way, most people find it harder to shoot with their eyes closed, to shoot a rifle, than to shoot a pistol. And that's because a rifle, you have to have, you're holding it with two hands. And that angle between your front grip and your trigger finger, that angle is very sensitive, vertically. And it's very easy to get that wrong. But with intuitive point shooting or intuitive shooting, as I said, with one hand, people typically point it in about the right direction if they're just holding a pistol. So rifles are easier to shoot with your eyes open, harder to shoot with your eyes closed compared to pistols, which are relatively easier to shoot with your eyes closed compared to rifles, but harder to shoot with your eyes open compared to rifles. Does that make sense? I guess in a perfect world, you would always have your eyes open, but bad things happen, so who knows? But anyway, just as a disclaimer, if you decide to do these drills, please exercise safety and caution, have proper instruction, and have a good backstop, because you might shoot high. You don't want bullets flying off into la la land. So legally, I have to warn you, this is a do not try this at home type of information here. Okay. And by the way, there was a shooting, I think, was it LA? This was just publicized over the weekend. I'm not going to show the video, but there was some crazed guy who, I don't know, stabbed or shot a woman on the second floor of a clothing store, I guess it was. And the police responded, and they show the body cam of this police officer who grabbed his AR out of the trunk of his car, and he marched up there, and he took point, and he saw blood on the ground, and he goes into the department store, and then he sees this guy, and he fires off 3 rounds at this guy at a range of what looked like maybe 50 feet, like from one end of an aisle, of a shopping aisle, to the other end, and shot the guy. The guy drops to the ground, and then you hear this screaming of what seems like a younger female screaming. And it turns out, and this is an absolute tragedy, turns out this police officer, one of his rounds went through the wall behind the perp, happened to be a dressing room that was occupied by a 14-year-old girl, and she was shot and killed. So, my goodness, I've said this before about cops and not having enough training of where they're putting their rounds. And also you got to wonder, like, what kind of rounds was he using? Did they go through the perp and then through the wall and through the girl? Or did he miss? Out of 3 rounds, did one of them miss and just go through the wall and kill the girl? I've seen way too many videos where cops are just like lighting off rounds all over the place. There's one crazy video out of LA, I think it was, where these cops drove up on a perp who ran into a Trader Joe's, and the cops just open up on the front of the Trader Joe's retail store, just full blamity blam, like breaking out all the windows, and they killed the Trader Joe's manager. Yeah. There's so many cases where cops are killing innocent people because they don't have proper placement of their rounds. I'm not saying that it's easy to be a cop. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that at all. Cops are underappreciated. But my God, haven't you heard of frangible rounds? Why not use frangible rounds in your AR when you're going in a building to engage a perp? You don't need hunting rounds to take down a bad guy. Choose your ammo wisely. There's other innocent people around. The other takeaway from that scenario is, folks, if you hear gunfire close by, you may want to hit the ground. You might want to get low. Pretty good idea. Get low. Do not present a larger target to whoever's shooting. For the most part, you hit the dirt, you're not going to take gunfire, for the most part. Whether it's cops or perps or whoever, or a two-way firing range between those two groups, if you're low, you're way safer. Get low and crawl. I can't tell you how many times I've been in firearms classes where we had to crawl on brass in the ground. Other people's use brass all over the ground, and it hurts. You're low on the ground. You've got your own rifle. You're crawling, and your knees are getting all cut up on other people's brass. But why are you low? Because that's the safest place to be. And people who have advanced firearm skills, you learn how to shoot sideways on your side on the ground, for example, underneath a vehicle, and how to re-engage your rifle sights when you're shooting sideways. Because, the bullet drop is totally different when your sights are turned 90 degrees. Yeah. Obviously, because gravity works perpendicular to the earth, And by the way, if you do hit the ground anytime there's a shooting and there's law enforcement response, believe me, the cops will thank you for getting low. They don't want you in the way either. They would rather just everybody get low. Everybody get down. That's why they scream that, get down, and then nobody does. It's like, if I'm in a scene, if I'm, I don't know, at a restaurant or something, and cops burst in and like, get down, guess what I'm doing? I'm getting the F down. I figure they have a reason for doing this. I'm going to get down and then look around from the floor. What's going on? What do they got in here? Is Jeffrey Epstein kidnapping children in the lobby? What's going on? I'll stay down. Okay, one last thing. Former Senator Harry Reid died, reportedly. It's being widely reported at least a couple hours ago. I don't think it's a hoax. Harry Reid, they say don't speak ill of the dead, so I'm not going to pound on this, but I just hope he enjoys meeting Satan, because that's exactly where he is now. one of the most evil, just evil senators ever in the history of our country. Right up there with John McCain, or right down there, I should say, with John McCain. So anyway, yeah, everybody dies, folks. We all die. The question is, how did we live before that day comes? Did we live with morals and ethics? Did we live in protecting life? Did we try to help others? Were we honest? Did we share knowledge? Did we exercise compassion? Were we human? Did we have humanity? And right now, that is the most important question of our time, because so many of these doctors, they're inhuman. So many of these bureaucrats, these hospital administrators, the governors, the city council members, the school bureaucrats, they're not human, folks. They're not even human anymore. So right now, kind of passing the test of life should be simple. It's like, be a human being, treat others with a sense of dignity. And they can't even do that, as evidenced by the fact that they're discriminating against white people when it comes to, emergency medicine. Just unbelievable. Just treat people with dignity. How hard is that, huh? Really? Apparently it's hard for most people. Kind of don't have much faith left in most of humanity, but neither does God, by the way. Yeah, seriously. Yeah, because so many of them are just joining up with Satan, and then they're going, boop, and then leaving this world and teleporting down to hell. I guess maybe they can run a whole new Senate in hell, because that's what they have earned. So let us never join them. Hold the line, folks. Life is not that long. Eternity is forever. Hold the line. Yeah. All right. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you. I'll be back with you tomorrow with another update. Who knows what craziness is going to happen over the next day. It's nuts. Just complete bonkers. But I wish you blessings, and do your best to get prepared for what's coming. It's going to be a wild year coming up. All right. Thank you for listening.